Welcome to Mode Bespoke. I'm Atenas, and for today's tutorial we're going to be working on this Argyle hat. So let's get started. So this pattern is worked in multiples of 16 plus 1. So for our adult hat, you're going to begin with 80 stitches, which is 16 times 5, plus 1. So we're going to chain 81 stitches. So just begin with your slip knot, and then we begin our chain. So just yarn over and pull through this bottom loop. There's one, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, until you have a total of 81 stitches. Once you have your chain, you have to close the round, since this pattern is worked in the round. So make sure all your stitches are facing the same direction, and then just find the end of your chain. So make sure that your chain isn't twisted. And then once you get to the end of your chain, insert your hook into that last stitch and slip stitch. So yarn over, and we're going to pull through both of those loops. And now we've closed the round. So moving on to our next row, you're going to yarn over, chain 1, and then chain 2, and we're going to turn our work around. So work with whatever side of the chain is easiest for you to see. So if it's easiest for you to work with the chain facing you like this, then just start like this. If you prefer to work on the back, then start on the back. But we're going to half double crochet into every stitch. So I'm going to hold my chain this way. Skip the stitch where your chain comes out. So that chain 2, we're going to skip this stitch and go into the next stitch. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. We're going to have 3 loops on our hook, and now you just yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And that's a half double crochet. So let's do it again. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. So yarn over, insert the hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through all 3. So complete a half double crochet in every one of the stitches of the chain, and I'll meet you again when you get to this side. Once you've worked your way back around up to this first stitch, we're going to close our round. So I have 1 stitch left. So here is that slip stitch, so it's going to be a slightly larger stitch. I still have 1 stitch left here on this side. So let me make that half double crochet. And then to close our round, we're going to skip this chain. So skip this, and we're going to work a half double crochet into the stitch right above that chain. So we have that chain 2 right at the top. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the top of the stitch, yarn over, and half double crochet. And there we've closed our round. Now, to make it a little easier in future rounds, since we are going to work in continuous rounds, I suggest that you maybe use a stitch marker or anything like that just to mark that very first stitch of the round so you can keep track of your rounds. So just place it there on that first stitch, and then you're ready to go. So you just continue to half double crochet in all of the stitches all the way around. Now when you get back to that first stitch of the round, so where our stitch marker is, you just continue working. So you don't stop anymore. You just continue working half double crochets all the way around. You're going to work a total of 12 rounds. So this is 1. We've already started the second one. So complete a total of 12. So the 12 rounds are for a slouchy beanie. If you want a more form-fitting beanie, then work a total of 7 rounds. So let me repeat that again. Work 7 rounds for a form-fitting beanie, and work 12 rounds for a slouchy beanie, which is what we're going to be working on today. Alright, so once you've completed your 12 rounds, we're going to have to start using our chart. So the chart is available on the website. I will link it down below. Something to note about the chart is that this one's a little bit different than some of my other charts. This time I put a right-handed row and then a left-handed row. So if you're a left-handed crocheter, you would just read the chart from left to right. And if you're a right-handed crocheter, you read this from right to left. So all of these are worked in half double crochets. And then here are your different colors. So you can use any colors you want. This is going to be color 1. So you're going to see it here. Color 1 is all of this white, the white stitching, which is this one. And for color 2, we're going to use the silver. So that's going to be this one right here. So all of this is going to be worked in color 2. So we're going to work 5 repetitions of this same pattern. So once you complete the first one, so stitch 1 through 16, you go right back to stitch number 1 and continue to work again. So you're just going to repeat this until you complete the round. So for our first stitch, we're going to have to switch to our silver yarn. So we're going to work 1 stitch in silver and then 7 stitches in cherry. So 1 silver, 7 cherry, and then 1 silver, 7 cherry. And then we're just going to repeat 7 more times until we complete the round. We're going to begin a half double crochet in cherry. So yarn over, you're going to insert your hook into the stitch, and then yarn over and pull up a loop. And when you have the 3 loops on your hook, that's when you're going to switch to your silver. So leave a nice long tail end. We'll weave this in later. Loop it around your hook, and then pull through all 3 stitches. And now we've got a color switch. So anytime you have to switch color, that's how you're going to do it. So we're going to work 1 stitch in silver, which means we're going to have to switch colors right away. So we're just going to yarn over, insert our hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and we'll have our 3 loops. And now we're going to yarn over and pull through in cherry. So let me grab my cherry yarn. So yarn over and pull through in cherry, and then we have 1 stitch in silver. And now we need 7 stitches in cherry. We are going to have to carry the yarn. So we're going to have to carry this silver yarn. So just line it up at the top of your stitching, and then just half double crochet 6 stitches, because the 7th stitch is going to be our color switch. So yarn over, pull up a loop, and there's 1. So I'm just holding down my silver yarn. There's 2. 3, 4, 5, and 6. So be sure to check your work at this point, because if you have little bits of your second color poking out, you're just going to pull on your yarn just to hide it. Don't pull too tight, or you're going to pull your stitches really tightly like that. And then this part of the hat is going to be really, really narrow, while the rest of your hat's going to be really wide. So make sure that this stitching is nice and loose, but that you don't have a lot of your second color poking out of the stitching. Okay, so for stitch number 7, we're going to do our color switch. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, and then we're going to drop our red yarn, grab our silver, and then yarn over and pull through 3. We're going to do 1 stitch in silver. So yarn over, insert our hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then for the silver, we're just going to pull it forward, grab our cherry, yarn over, pull through 3, and then we just repeat. So we're going to do 6 half double crochets. Stitch number 7 is a color switch, 1 stitch in silver, and then repeat. So I'll see you when you work your way around.
So once you have completed your round and you've gotten back to that very first stitch of the round, we're going to have to close the round, and this one's going to be a little bit different. So I've already completed 6 out of the 7 cherry stitches I needed to complete. We have to do the 7th stitch, which is going to be our color switch, and then we're going to do a silver stitch. So the goal is to continue the pattern, so continue the design so that when we have our Argyle pattern, so when the sides go up like this, it's going to be a continuous design. So let me finish that 7th stitch, which is going to be that color switch, and it's also the last stitch of row 1. And then we're going to switch here to silver, and then we're going to crochet a silver stitch because it is the first stitch of round 1. So to complete a silver stitch, we're going to switch to red, and now we're ready to begin round 2. You're going to do this for every row. So that very last stitch of the round is always going to be the first stitch of that row that you just completed. All right, so moving on to row number 2. Before you do this though, I do recommend that you grab a stitch marker and just place it on that very first stitch of the pattern, so of our design, just because it's going to make it a lot easier to know when your round starts as you continue to add on to these rows. So it'll get a little confusing later, and it'll help you in case you get lost. All right, so beginning on round number 2, as you can see, we begin with 1 red stitch, and we're going to switch over to our silver, and we're going to crochet 1 silver stitch, and we're going to switch to cherry, and we're going to work 5 stitches in cherry. So let's make sure that we are hiding our yarn. So we're going to be carrying our yarn throughout this Argyle design. So here we go, 3, 4, and 5. All right, and now we're going to switch to silver, and we're going to crochet 3 stitches in silver. So we'll make 1, 2, and 3. We're going to switch back to cherry, and we're going to crochet 5 stitches in cherry. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we switch back to silver, and we're going to crochet 1 last stitch in silver, and this is going to be the last stitch of row number 2. So I'm just going to switch to red, and there we go. So keep repeating this row until you have completed the round. So now I'm just going to begin again on stitch 1 of row 2. So continue your round, and I will see you when you finish. So I've completed my entire round for round 2, and I'm on the last stitch, and I'm just going to run this by you guys one last time, and I won't be explaining it anymore here. So once you finish the very last repetition of whatever round you are on, the next stitch, because you're going to have 1 extra stitch, that last stitch is going to be the first stitch of your next row. So in this case, we just completed round 2. So it's row number 2 on our chart. We need to complete this first stitch, which is in red, before we can move on to round number 3. So I'm going to complete this in red because that was the very first stitch of row number 2. There we go. And now our round is complete. Now we can move on to round 3. All right, so moving on to round number 3, as you can see on our chart, we begin with 2 stitches in cherry. So there's 1, and that's going to be a color switch. So 2. We're going to complete 1 stitch in silver. We're going to follow that up with 3 stitches in cherry. And then we switch to silver, and we work 5 stitches in silver. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We switch to cherry and complete 3 stitches. So it's 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to switch to silver. We're going to work 1 stitch in silver. And we're going to finish the row with 1 stitch in cherry. So there we go. That's row number 3. Now go ahead and repeat that and continue your round. So I'll see you when we get back to our stitch marker.
La fila número
So moving on to round number 4, we are going to begin with 3 stitches in cherry. We're going to switch to silver and we're going to work 1 stitch in silver. And now we're going to switch back to cherry and we're going to work 1 stitch in cherry. Switch to silver and then we're going to complete 7 stitches in silver. So we have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7.
A ese le va a seguir
work
un punto
1
rojo,
stitch in cherry, and then 1 stitch in silver,
y luego 2 en rojo.
and finish off the row with 2 stitches in cherry.
1 y 2. Y esa fue
And
la
that
fila
is
número
row
4.
number 4.
Ahora comenzando con la
For
fila
row number
número
5,
5,
we're going to
vamos
begin
con 4 puntos
with
en rojo.
4 stitches in cherry.
1, 2, 3
We're going to switch
y 4.
to silver, and there's supposed to be a color switch. Let me fix that real quick.
Entonces,
Okay, so stitch number 4 in cherry, and now we're going to work 1 stitch in silver. We're going to switch to cherry and work 1 stitch in cherry. And then you need 5 stitches in silver. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4,
5.
5.
Le sigue 1 en
1 stitch
rojo,
in cherry, 1 in silver,
1 en plateado y terminamos con 3 puntos en
and
rojo.
we're going to finish the row with 3 stitches in cherry.
1, 2 y 3. Y esa
And that
fue la
was
fila
row
número
number
5.
5.
Bueno, y para la fila número 6
Moving on to row
comenzamos
number
con 3
6,
en
we're going to
rojo.
begin with 3 stitches in cherry.
1, 2, 3.
I'm going to switch to silver and work 3 stitches in silver. You're going to work 1 stitch in cherry, and then 3 stitches in silver.
3 en plateado. Entonces 1, aquí vamos ya 2 y 3.
Go back to cherry and work 1
1 en
stitch,
rojo,
and then work 3 stitches in
3 en
silver,
plateado,
and finish the row
y terminamos
by
con 2
crocheting
puntos
2
en
stitches
rojo.
in cherry. There we go,
Esta fue
and
la
that was
fila
row
número
number
6.
6.
Comenzando ahora la fila número 7, vamos
So
con
for
2
row number
puntos
7,
en
we're going to begin
rojo.
with 2 stitches in cherry.
Le siguen 7 puntos en
Then you're going to
plateado.
work 5 stitches in silver.
No, perdón, son 5. 5 puntos en plateado.
So that's
Entonces
1,
va 1,
2,
2, 3,
3,
4
4.
y 5. Y aquí es el cambio de color.
and we got 5. You're going to work 1
Y
stitch
luego va
in cherry,
1 en rojo,
1 stitch in
1
silver,
en plateado,
and then 1 stitch in
1 en
cherry.
rojo. Otra vez
And then we're going to
5
work 5
en
stitches
plateado.
in silver. So there's 1,
1,
2,
2,
3,
4
4,
y 5.
And our fifth one.
Y
And then the
terminamos
last stitch
con
of the
un
row
punto
is
en rojo.
in cherry. So a 1 stitch in cherry. And that was
Estuvo
row number
la
7.
fila número 7. Para la fila número
Moving
8,
on to row number
comenzamos
8,
con
we're
un
going to
punto
begin
en
with just
rojo.
1 stitch in cherry.
Le siguen,
And then you're
ahora
going to
sí
work
son
7
7 puntos en
stitches
plateado.
in silver.
Entonces 1,
So here we go. 2,
2, 3, 4,
4,
5,
5, 6,
6
and
y
7.
7. Vamos a tejer
Then you're
un
going to work
punto en
1 stitch
rojo
in cherry.
y le van a seguir
And then
7
7
puntos
stitches in
en
silver.
plateado. 1,
1, 2,
2,
3,
3,
4,
4,
5,
5,
6, and 7.
7. Será cambio de color.
Oh, that needs to be a color switch because my next stitch is going to be in red.
Ahí completamos la
All
fila.
right, there we go.
número
And that was
8.
row number 8.
Vamos con la fila número 9.
For
Nada más
row
un
number 9,
recordatorio rápido de que no
since,
se les
just a
olvide
quick note here.
tejer
So the
el
beginning
primer punto
of
de
row
la
number
fila
8
8.
was a red
Entonces
stitch,
terminen
so
la
don't
vuelta número
forget
8
to complete that
con el
one red
primer
stitch
punto
before moving
de
on
la
to
fila
row
8,
number
que es un
9.
punto en rojo, para que
So
les
that
quede
way
el
you
diseño.
have the Argyle shape
Así
very visible.
empezamos la fila número 9.
All right,
Que
but
van
row number 9
dos
we
en
begin
rojo.
with 2 stitches in cherry.
Le siguen 5 en
And then you're
plateado.
going to work 5 stitches in silver.
Es 1, 2, 3, 4 y 5.
We're going to go back to cherry and we're going to work
En
1
rojo.
stitch. And then go to silver
Uno
and
en
work 1
plateado.
stitch. Back to cherry. And 1
en
stitch in
rojo.
cherry. All right, and now that we're back on silver, we're going to
Luego
work
5
5
en
stitches
plateado.
in silver. So we have 1,
1,
2,
2,
3,
3, 4
4,
y 5.
and 5. And we're going to finish the
Y se le
row
sigue un punto en
with
rojo.
1 stitch in cherry. So we go.
Esta
That
la
was
fila
row number 9.
número 9. Bueno, ya ahí va
So I'm
agarrando
going
ya.
to scoot on back here a
la
little bit so
forma
you can
nuestro
see our
diseño.
design so far.
Y
So
vamos ya en la
you start to
fila
see the
número
Argyle
10.
pattern.
Así que déjame
But
acerco.
we are now on row number 10. So let's keep cracking at
Y
it. So we've got
comenzamos
3 stitches
con
in
3 puntos
cherry.
en rojo.
So we've got 1, 2,
2, 3.
3.
3
You have
puntos
3
en
stitches
plateado.
in silver.
1, 2, 3.
We have 1 stitch in cherry.
3 en plateado.
Then we have 3 stitches in silver. So 1, 2, there you go, and 3. 1 stitch in cherry. 3 stitches in silver.
Y terminamos la fila con 2
And then
puntos
2
en
stitches
rojo.
in cherry.
Uy,
There we go. And that was
esa fue la
row
fila
number
número
10.
10. Ahora, para la fila
For
número
row
11,
number
vamos
11,
a
we're going to
comenzar
begin
con
with
4
4
puntos
stitches
en
in
rojo.
cherry. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're going to work 1 stitch in silver,
un punto en rojo,
and then 1 in cherry. Then we have 5 stitches in silver. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. That one's a little bit stuck. Let me redo that one.
¿Cuántos? 3, 4
There we
y
go.
5.
And 5. Now we're going to work 1 stitch in cherry.
Va un punto en rojo. Uno en
1 in
plateado.
silver.
Y terminamos
And we'll
con
finish
3
the row
puntos en rojo.
with 3 stitches in cherry.
1, 2 y 3. Y esa fue
Go.
la
And
vuelta
that was
número 11.
row number
Ahora,
11.
para la fila número 12 comenzamos con 3
For row number
puntos
12,
en rojo.
we're going to begin with 3 stitches in cherry.
1, 2, 3.
And we're going to do 1 stitch in
Sigue uno
silver,
en plateado,
and then 1 stitch
uno
in
en
cherry.
rojo,
And then we're going to work 7
y luego
stitches
7
in
en
silver.
plateado.
Oh no, I'm off
Estoy
camera.
fuera de la cámara
Okay, there we
aquí.
go. So 7
Uno.
stitches in silver.
2,
It's a good thing we have the chart right there.
Tres.
Goodness.
4,
Okay,
5,
let's see, 6
6
and 7. All right, now we're going to switch to red
y
again.
7.
So we got cherry. We're going to work 1 stitch in cherry.
Y va uno en rojo,
Then 1 stitch in silver.
uno en plateado. Y terminamos la fila con
And
2
2
puntos
stitches
en
in
rojo.
cherry.
1 y 2.
There we go. And that
Esa
was
fue la
row
fila
number 12.
número 12. Y ahora para la fila número 13 van
Row number
2 en
13
rojo,
starts with 2 stitches in cherry.
uno en
We're going to work
plateado,
1 stitch in silver. And then 3 stitches in
van
cherry.
3 en rojo,
So let me grab my cherry yarn again. We have 1,
1,
2,
2,
and 3.
3.
And then we're going to work 5 stitches in silver.
Ahí se le siguen 5 en plateado.
So there's 1,
1,
2, 3, 4,
4 y 5.
5. Then we work 3
Luego van
stitches
3
in
en rojo.
cherry. So there's 1,
1, 2,
2,
3,
all right, not 3.
1 en plateado.
You're going to work 1 stitch in silver.
Y terminamos la fila.
And
con
we're
un
going to finish
punto
the row
en
with
rojo.
1 stitch in red. So go.
Y esa es la fila
And that
número
was row
13.
number 13.
Vamos ya en la fila número 14.
For row number 14, we're going to
Y aquí
begin
vamos
with
a
1
comenzar
stitch in
con un
cherry,
punto en rojo. Le sigue
1
uno
stitch in
plateado.
silver,
Y luego van 5 puntos en rojo.
5 stitches in cherry,
1,
2,
2,
3,
4
4, and 5.
y 5.
3
Le
stitches
siguen
in
3
silver.
puntos en plateado.
So we got 1,
1,
2,
2,
and 3.
3. Y luego 5
And then we have
puntos
5
en
stitches
rojo.
in cherry.
1, 2, 3,
And
4,
there's
5.
5.
Y
And the last
terminamos
stitch
la
of the row,
fila
we're going
con
to
un
work
punto
in
en
silver.
plateado. Y este va a ser
We're going to
un
work
cambio
a
de color
color
al
switch
principio de la
silver
fila, entonces
because the very
deje tu
first
punto
stitch
plateado
of
y
row
luego
14
termina,
is
cierra
in
el punto
red.
en rojo, porque
So
el
when
primer
we
punto de la
when we
fila
begin our
14
repetition,
es
we need to be
en
ready
rojo.
with our red yarn.
Pero no, esa fue la
But
fila
that
número
is row number
14.
14.
Llegamos a la última, número 15, es en
Moving on
plateado.
to row number
Así que
15,
vamos con un
we're going to
punto
begin with
en
silver
plateado.
this time.
Y a este le van a seguir
And then you're going to work 7
7 puntos en rojo.
stitches in cherry. So this is basically a repetition of row 1.
2,
So this one's going to move along
Tres.
really, really quickly.
4, 5, 6
And
y
here
7.
goes 7. All right, and then you're going to work
Vamos
1
con un punto
stitch
plateado
in silver.
y luego
And then
terminamos
we're
la
going to
fila
work
con
7
7
stitches in
puntos en
cherry.
rojo.
So
Y
those will
luego,
be the last
ya
7
que
stitches
terminen
of row number
las
15.
repeticiones y que terminen esta vuelta por completo, no olviden de comenzar, de terminar la vuelta, pues, con el primer punto.
So I've completed my round for row 15, and I'm on this very last stitch, so here's my last repetition. So remember to do that very first stitch of the round, which in this case was a silver stitch. So I'm just going to switch over to my cherry yarn. And now we are done with the silver yarn. So just leave a nice long tail end, and then we're going to cut the silver yarn. And we're just going to do a few rounds here in cherry. So now to finish off the top part of the hat, we're going to work 3 rounds in the half double crochet just in cherry. So it's just a repetition of what we did at the very beginning of the hat. So once you are done with those 3 rounds, go ahead and try your hat on just to make sure that it fits the way you want it to. This top part is what goes on your forehead. So this is the top where your head goes, and then way up here that's the very topmost part of the hat. So this is where your poof or your pom-pom would go. So once you've tried your hat on and you've completed your 3 rows, we will get to work on the brim. Now the brim can be as wide as you want it to be. So it can be a very wide brim, or it can be really, really narrow. That's entirely up to you, but we will work on that in just a moment. Alright, so I've already completed my 3 rounds in cherry, and we're ready to begin the brim. So we're going to have to do a color switch because my brim is going to be in silver. So we're just going to work half of our half double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, and here's our color switch to silver. Remember to leave a nice long tail end. Pull that silver loop through all 3 of those cherry stitches. Yes, all 3 cherry loops. And now we're going to chain 2. So here's 1, and then chain 2. And now this round we're going to complete double crochets. So to work a double crochet, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. And when you have all 3 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So there's your double crochet. So for the next one, we're going to repeat it. So just yarn over, insert your hook into your stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then you're going to yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. So now just continue to complete a double crochet in all of the stitches of your round. So I'll meet you again when we begin the round. Alright, so I've completed this round of double crochets, and we're ready to begin the first round of the brim pattern. So this is the front post, back post part of the pattern. So we're going to begin on this chain. So the chain 2 that we used at the very beginning of the last round, we're going to turn that into a front post double crochet. So yarn over, and we're going to insert our hook behind that chain. You're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, and then we just close up our double crochet. So yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. The next stitch we're going to work as a back post double crochet. So we're going to yarn over. This time we're going to insert our hook from behind towards the front of the post, and then you're going to push that post back. So you're going to see it right behind your hook. Yarn over and pull up a loop, and you just finish your double crochet. We're going to follow it up with a front post double crochet in the next stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook behind the post. So there's a post on the hook. Yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. The stitch after that is going to be worked as a back post double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook behind your work and in front of the post, pushing it to the back. And now yarn over, pull up a loop, and finish your double crochet. So now for the rest of the round, you're just going to alternate between front and back post double crochets. If this brim didn't make a lot of sense to you, I do have a video tutorial specifically for this brim. I'll link it up here on the video, so go check that out. So I cover each of these stitches in detail, so if you don't understand how the front and the back posts work, go check out that video. So now complete your round, and I will see you in just a moment. Alright, so I've completed my round, and now we're back here to the beginning. So this is that first front post double crochet that we made on the chain. So it is a front post double crochet, so we're going to complete another front post double crochet. So we're just going to repeat the stitch that we did the previous round. So we're going to insert our hook behind the post and yarn over, pull up a loop, and then we close our double crochet. The next one is a back post double crochet. So in this row, we're going to crochet a back post double crochet. So there we go. The next one is a front post, so we're going to work a front post double crochet. And the next one is a back post. So we work a back post double crochet. There we go. Now, if you can't tell which one is a front post or a back post, so the front post just kind of pops up in front of your work. So it kind of pops out in the front of everything. The back post is kind of hidden, so there's going to be a chain right in front of it. So see that stitch? This tells you that that is a back post. So for the rest of this work, if you look here at the little windows, so I call them little windows, but it's not the stitch, so the stitch is up on top. It's this little space right below the stitch. That's where you're going to be working your front and back posts. So I do explain this in more detail in the brim tutorial, but in case you didn't want to watch it, that's just another little something to remember while you're working on this brim. Alright, so there you go. So we've just extended the stitch. So we'll go front post on every front post and a back post on every back post, and repeat this over and over until you make the brim as wide as you want. So that's all there's to it. So I'm going to continue working on my brim, and I will see you here in a little while. Once you're finished, go through and just weave in all your tail ends, and then we can sew up the top of the hat. Alright, so I've made my brim as wide as I want to make it. Now let me zoom in here. So this is how I'm just going to end the brim part. So I'm ending here on a front post double crochet. If you went on a back post, you can finish this the same way. But I'm just going to insert your hook behind the post, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then we're going to slip stitch. So pull this top stitch, or the top loop, sorry, through that bottom loop. And then chain one. That chain one is going to make a little knot here at the bottom. So tighten that up, and you can cut your yarn. So cut a nice long tail, and then you're going to pull your hook out along with the yarn, tighten up your knot, and then I'm going to go through and weave in all of these ends. Next up, I'll teach you how to cinch the top. Alright, so once you've woven everything in, you're ready to cinch the top of your hat closed. You're going to need your yarn. So I've threaded it here through a yarn needle, and then just make a knot on one of the ends of the yarn. And here, let me get a little bit closer. You're going to insert your needle in any of the stitches along the top. It doesn't matter where. Just make sure you go through one of those half double crochets, and that's going to help you hide the knot. So I'm going to insert my needle from the inside of the hat towards the outside here in the front. And then to cinch the top, you're going to begin by inserting your needle into the very next stitch. So I'm going to use the top of the stitch right there. I'm going to insert my needle from front to back. And then I'm going to skip a stitch, and then I'm going to go from back to front. So here, I'll make it a little bit easier. So you're going to skip one, and then go front to back, and then skip a stitch, and then sew back to front. Skip one, go front to back, skip one, and then go back to front. So just continue to sew this way all along the top of your hat. If you cut a very small thread of yarn to work with, you can start pulling on it, and that way you have a little bit more yarn to work with. So I'm just going to continue to work on this, and I will see you again in a moment. So I finished cinching the top part of my hat, but I didn't close it all the way, so I left a little bit of space. And that's because I'm going to add a detachable pom-pom to it. But if you're going to make this for somebody who doesn't want a pom, then just sew along the top to completely close that up. So just a couple of stitches across will do. So I'm going to use that little space as a buttonhole. That way I don't have to worry about it later. And then I will add a detachable pom, and there we go. So that was our tutorial for today. Let me know if the side-by-side view with the chart worked out for you guys. Just leave that down in the comments below. But if you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I post videos every week. And if you want to see more of my work, you can follow me on Instagram. Don't forget to get a copy of the pattern, and that's the full pattern and the chart on my website. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.